Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are having a look at another vehicle on the updates direct hit dev server, and this is the BV138C-1. This is a ridiculous vehicle for the Germans. I don't know how else to put it. It is a tri-engined reconnaissance aircraft, probably some kind of maritime patrol thing made by, of course, your boys Blom and Voss. And what we have here is just another monstrosity. I'm very happy to see it in the game. You know, Blom and Voss designs are always wonderful to see, and here is another one. So this vehicle has access to some interesting defensive armaments. It has two 20mm on it, and also has access to a 13mm, which is back here. That also has access to 5 crew, 3 gunners, 1 pilot and a co-pilot. The engines themselves are Junkers Umo 205D 6 cylinders with 889 horsepower max. They kind of remind me of the Uhu's engines, but I'm sure they are slightly different. I kind of feel sorry for the guy back here who sits on the 13 with the engine literally behind his head. But then again, there was an Italian First World War and then interim of the war bomber, where there was a guy on a gun in the back who was a flight engineer and also a gunner, and he stood on an engine of a tri-engine bomber. So I can understand why the ideas come from. I just feel sorry for this dude. So this vehicle stock actually doesn't get any bombs, so you are just left with the defensive armament. I don't know if you're supposed to gunship or something, but I feel like it could be pretty fun in that regard. And also, you know, since it's a battle rating 1.7 vehicle, you're not looking at anything which is, you know, going to take the world by storm. It's coming between the DO-17s and also the HE-111H3. So it's just one of those interesting, weird and wonderful vehicles that we're getting in the update. It does get 6 50-kilo bombs once you unlock the actual bomb load here. 650s is nothing to write home about. They're also in this little patch here on the wing, which looks really cool. So there is definitely that. And I've got to say, this thing handles like an absolute bus when you try and fly it. I don't know if its flight model is finished or not, but it does have, you know, its cockpit. It's obviously not in the great condition. None of the dials are really there. This to me seems like even a kind of not sorted cockpit. We've even got water in the cabin, which seems like a bad idea. But you can see in this plane, it is just one of those vehicles which is just absolutely humongous. It really is one of those which I feel, god damn it, I feel is never really gonna be one of those which is gonna be meta-defining or anything like that, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. And for me, at the end of the day, when we look at War Thunder, one of the things that brings joy to, you know, me is the fact that we can get dumb vehicles like this, which are a little bit fun, which are a little bit different. All of the bombs drop independently, which is quite nice on it. So, you know, even though they are 50-kilo bombs, at least you can do something with it. It has access to landing and takeoff flaps, so no combat flaps, no combat maneuvers in this thing, unfortunately. It does have, of course, the 20s, as we talked about. But for me, vehicles like this is what make War Thunder special, you know? There's a lot of people who are looking at the MiG-27 and wondering, you know, how it's going to perform. A lot of people who are really hyped for stuff like the Viggen. A lot of people who are hyped for the M1A1HC. For me, this is my bread and butter. Ridiculous vehicles that are very fun to play in short amounts and get them done and then, you know, move on to the next one. For me, I am so glad to see vehicles like this when it comes to the game. And I'm also glad that it seems a lot of other people are looking at this and going, what the hell is this thing? You know, when it comes to like the leak lists, right? Or when it comes to the dev streams, there wasn't any mention of this monstrosity. And one of the things you've got to understand is when it comes to this machine is there was no no real rhyme or reason or where it came out of, but here it is. It looks like it breaks. Let's see, let's test it. So it breaks at about 450, so you can't go faster than that. I could probably still control this thing, oh, never mind. But it just came out of nowhere, and it's such a wonky vehicle that it's just one of those which is just really, really cool to see. Let's just put it on clear. So how can we take off with this thing? Does it actually let you take off? That seems like a bit of an oddity. But it's got 220s on it, so at the BR that it's at, you know, that's going to be pretty nice for it. It's not going to be a machine that's going to set the world alight. It isn't crazy fast, it isn't crazy maneuverable, but it does have some 20s and it does have a 13 with the lad on the back. And I've got to say, the gunning angles of these guns, you can see that you can actually protect yourself all the way above and around. So no matter if you attack this thing anywhere from the top, you will actually be shot. It's kind of as simple as that. Whereas when it comes to the front, it's the same. The front gunner has really good coverage, even all the way up as well once again. But once you look down, there's no coverage. So that's probably the place to attack this thing at. When it comes to maneuverability, as you can see, it's not there, is probably the best way of putting it. This is never going to be a machine that you can throw about the place. I wonder if they're going to give it different bomb loads, or if they're just going to keep it the same. It is kind of cool that they have this blister on the wing where you can hold stuff. I'm wondering if there was one that you could put on the other side, because it just seems very odd having an unbalanced vehicle, but then at the same time, it's not like we're talking about a crazy amount. And then, obviously, when it comes to the inside, you know, it does look quite nice. I just wish it was a little bit more HD, at least have the dials work. That would be cool. And another thing to also mention is this thing is coming in as a basic gunship with bombs added on. There are a lot of machines, especially when it comes to World War II, which had kind of a similar role, but you know, the recon idea, and then maybe you could use it as a defensive idea, but more of like the gunship stuff. So there was a bunch of machines, you know, there was a proposed variant of stuff like the G4 for the Japanese, where they were going to attach a bunch of machine guns on the bottom of it and use it to strafe stuff like aircraft carriers. There was obviously the B17 Gunship, which I'm sure many of you know about, the one which stripped out all of the bombing stuff and just added way more 50 cals, and the general idea for it was that you would put it in the bomber formations and it would act as a gunship to be able to defend the other bombers. If this is one of those first steps into that realm, I think I'm okay with it. You know, as a little bit of a tester, kind of like with the Viggen and the crazy semi-active radar homing missiles. If this is the first step into the realm of gunships, I'm okay with that. I think it's a good little start. And then at the same time, if it's just a weird and wacky machine that somebody created and they wanted to put in the game and Gaijin basically said yes, then that's all good too, you know. That's always also nice to see in general. So for me, I'm happy to see this thing. Hopefully it does get a few more bells and whistles before it comes out onto the live platform, and I'm sure it will. You know, it feels kind of unfinished right now. I don't know if the engine power is right, I don't know if the bomb loads are right, I don't know if the damage model's right. There's definitely a few weird and kooky things about it, but at the same time, it's just great to see, and I hope we see more stuff like it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.